Thank you for joining us today. Even as the candidates of the Nigerian political parties for the 2023 general elections are restlessly touching places, emotionally connecting with various groups of the electorate, and expectedly raising issues about themselves and the country, or their respective states and constituencies, the expression of pessimism over the possibility of the conduct of the exercise in a lot of parts of the country is continuously and of course justifiably becoming ceaseless and more pronounced. Critical stakeholders, including the electoral body, security organs, civil society organizations and the media, have already raised enough alarm over the persistence of some threats to the peaceful conduct of the 2023 elections. Recent events such as the scarcity of PMS leading to long queues at filling stations and the scarcity of the Naira due to CBN's policy of introducing new Naira notes, attacks on INEX facilities across different parts of the country continue to pose high degree of doubt toward the reality of our February 25th and March 11th elections. But will all of these add up to motivate the Nigerian people to go to the polls, or will it further deter them? Will the 2023 elections bring hope and succor to the Nigerian people? This will be our focus on today's edition of the program. Welcome everyone. We'll return on this short break with my guests joining me to look into the answers to some of those questions that have been raised in this conversation. Welcome back, everyone. This is Politics Alive, reaching you from Alive Television. I am Olubenga George. Of course, to discuss and answer questions whether the 2023 elections will bring hope and succor to the Nigerian people, whether the current situations across the country will propel people to participate in the electoral process and cast their vote on 25th of February and 11th of March. All of this will be looked into in today's edition of the program. And of course, to have this conversation, I have been joined by legal practitioner who is the director gender inclusion and of course legal advisor to the Yes Project right here in the studios. It's good to have you join me, Mary.
It's good to be here, Gwenga.
All right, let's begin. Nigeria at the moment, is faced with a lot of turmoil, upheavals. There is pain, there is agony. A lot of people feel disenfranchised. A lot of people feel punished. That's what I've been able to get from quite a number of Nigerians that have spoken with concerning these issues. This is against the background that elections is just 16 days away from today. But when you travel around the country, you see queues at ATMs, you see queues at filling stations, and all of this continue to look like a threat to the 2023 general elections. I'd like to begin. Your organization actually works, with people trying to reorientate them to participate in the electoral process. With the work that you have done so far and the people that you have spoken with and the stakeholders also within that sector that you have spoken with and all of the back and forth between the government and the electoral body and the political parties, which we will go into details later, do you think that we are ready to go for the 2023 general elections on the 25th of February?
Okay, I will answer this question in two ways. If you decide to go back down history lane, we'll see that even during the 2019 elections, and it's more like habitual now that we always have long queues. It's almost like the situations in the country becomes more intense during elections, when elections are forthcoming. So I would like to say this present situation and the whole chaos that is happening now is not enough for us to say that INEC should not be prepared for us to have the elections, because one of the reasons, in fact, the major reason for this whole chaos is lack of management, is lack of good government policies. So it's better for us to let this government go and for the people to actually elect a government that will have their interest at hand. Because when you talk about the queues, it actually boils down to management, it boils down to government policies. When you talk about the new Naira notes, it boils down to government policies. So if you ask me, I would say to that extent that the general chaos right now is not enough to deter the elections from happening come 25th of January and 11th of March.
25th of February.
Sorry, and 11th of March.
I don't know why we keep missing those figures. All right, so you spoke about government policies and whether being the cause of some of the situations that we have in the country at the moment. Yet, a lot of people, especially financial experts and fintech people, have said the decision of the CBN, to at this time is a timely one, especially because it helps move Nigeria, as Nigerians will naturally not move on their own, except some sort of forces apply. That is on one hand. Others also say it will help to curb vote buying in the 2023 elections. And of course, you can see the reactions of politicians and political parties across the country where this is concerned. I'd like to get your view. Is the timing, like a lot of people do say, is it wrong to introduce this policy at this time, 2 weeks to elections?
Okay, as for me personally, I don't think the timing is wrong per se, but how would I put it, is the implementation of the planning, the implementation of, yes, the planning, the policy that actually I have an issue with. Ordinarily, if you want to change the Naira note, you should have already available the Naira notes, because the banks know the influx of people daily that come in to withdraw money. They know the influx of people that come in daily to deposit money. So following that statistics, they should be able to know the amount of money that will be actually needed during this span of time. Or they should have allowed the old Naira note and the new Naira note to coexist for a long time. Let's take, for example, let's see UK changed their 20 pounds and 100 pounds in 2021. And when they did that, I think the policy started by June, and they kept on using the old Naira notes up until 2022, I think sometime in September or August. That was like 15 months. They used the Naira notes, the new Naira notes, and the old Naira notes continued to coexist till 15 months later. So bringing this policy in now, it's not the issue. Okay, yes, you are trying to control funds and all, but it should not actually bring this kind of hardship to the people, because whether we like it or not, both the governance and politics should not actually take away the source of livelihood of the people, because quality or low, there's a lot of life has actually been affected. There's now low, people are living, there are low standard of living amongst people. A lot of persons are going through hardship. Okay, like the other day I was speaking to a lady and she was telling me that she had to pound pepper, like dry pepper, and add to crayfish or something to make food for her children, because she did not have access to cash, and she normally does petty trade, so she doesn't even have an account. So there's no way you can even say, okay, let me try and give her aid by sending her money to the account. So, and you can see these monies are not even available. Okay, people are ready to buy this cash even from the POS operators, but some of the POS operators don't even have the cash. And that's why the little cash that is flowing around the POS operators, people decide to even pay as much as 5,000 even to get 20,000 Naira. So we are buying money. So I feel this is the wrong time. This is the wrong approach. It may be the right time, because actually there will be no absolute right time, but the introduction is actually chaotic, and especially coming at a time when it actually brings how will I put it, it gives room for a lot of negative theories, suspicions, because now the government, some persons, some school of thoughts are feeling like, okay, the reason why we have this particular introduction of the new Naira note at this time, it's because they are hoarding the money, they are keeping like the new Naira notes for the politicians, so that they can have enough money to give people, when you have been starved of something.
Oh, this is interesting, Mary, especially going headlong to talk about politicians and how the currency affects them. You would agree with me that, checking generally now, you would see some members of political parties kicking, against this policy, especially the 10th February deadline. A lot of people have said it is totally political. I've heard a lot of people talk about how it is certain elements within the cabal. You heard the candidate of the ruling Progressive Congress in the 2023 election talk about that. You've had the governor of Kaduna State talk about that. You've had several other persons, also share that opinion, that it is a means, to gag and to curb or to curtail, that party, from easily dispensing the duties, of election at the time. But a lot of people have said even if it is politically motivated, it is also good because vote buying will not happen. I'm sure you shared, you've heard about that. Please tell me, what is your thought, especially with these two arguments, whether we should keep our naira and just go to the polls so that it can help us to make certain decisions when we want to vote, or perhaps it is just a punishment, like a lot of people do say for some persons.
Okay, personally, I don't feel this is using the scarcity of the naira note or introducing new naira notes to curb the menace of vote buying is actually a good strategy, because whether we like it or not, we have laws on campaign financing. What happened to those laws? If the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria wants to leave a good legacy, like he has actually postulated that he wants to, he should be able to make arrests. For crying out loud, there are a lot of persons, monies are going out. People are spending money on elections, and everybody know that vote buying and selling is something that is really common. So if he wants to actually leave a legacy, there should be evidence of arrests. We should see more arrests, because there are people that actually, they don't want to tell me that since the election campaign time till now, most parties have not spent more than the expected amount that ordinarily the constitution stipulates for them to spend.
We don't have proof for that.
We don't really have proof for that, but that is the reason why the EFCC should follow. They should follow. They should keep tabs on these people, and they should make arrests. We should be able to separate governance and politics. You cannot, because whether we like it or not, the people should be able to exist before election, during election, and after election. So causing and creating this kind of chaos just because you want to curb an election malpractice, as I would like to put it, is actually a very poor strategy, because the president has all the apparatus in his hands to actually stop these persons. It's just for him to give the instructions. For crying out loud, in Kenya during the elections, it was the police and the law enforcement agents that actually helped to curb the electoral buying and selling habits that was going on there. Whenever anybody comes to try to bribe the voters, you would see somebody will raise an alarm and say, sir, please, can you come and pick up this person? Now you see the police were actually doing this arrest, and it actually helped. So there are other policies, there are other things that could actually be done to stop this to stop vote buying, and I don't see the change of the new naira notes and the implementation in such a way as being one of them.
All right, that's quite interesting in submission, but we need to go on a quick break now. Okay. All right, viewers, let's go on this quick break, and when we return, the conversation continues with my guest standing here right in the studios. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. The conversation about Nigeria's 2023 election is still at the center front of our conversation for today. And of course, we are discussing this in light of the current challenges bedeviling the country few weeks to the election. And I'm still in the studios with Barrister Mary Ugweje, who is the Director of Gender Inclusiveness at YES Project. All right, Barrister, just before we went on that break, I was going to ask you, we have seen the depressing effect of some of these policies. While we continue to talk about the scarce naira notes, we also see fuel queues. I don't know how long it took you at the filling station to be able to get petrol inside your car, to drive down here. But I know, in my experience, that it's really painstaking to get that. You see the queues everywhere. So I'd like to ask, the fuel is not available or is not readily available. We're talking about naira notes now. People cannot even afford to eat. The ordinary people who we expect, are going to be voting on the 25th of February. Do you think, with all the other attendant challenges, recently, a report was also talking about the fears of insecurity across the country, which has not really been dealt with yet. Just last week, there was an attack on INEC facility in Imo State, which is still an existential threat. I'd like to ask you, when we combine all of these situations together, do you think that it is going to inspire the Nigerian people, the voters especially, to participate in this election, or to withhold themselves from or refrain from participating?
Okay. Generally, with all the chaos and with all the menace actually going on right now, a lot of Nigerians are being dispirited. Generally, there's very little hope. But notwithstanding, I think that this is the right time for everybody to come out. Because if you want to change a system, if you see that you don't like a particular system and you fold your arm and say, okay, because the system is already bad and we are seeing a lot of chaos, and you decide to fold your arms and do nothing, you continue to live in that particular system. So most times, especially we at Yes Project, we have tried to conscientize the general public on the usefulness for youths, especially coming out to cast their votes. Like we were at Edo State last week, and one of the things that actually was funny to us was that we actually called a traditional ruler that we expected that would speak to the people to say, okay, make sure you pick the right persons, vote based on your conscience and everything. He came back and he was talking about tribalism. He was telling them that this is the time for the South and things like that. We even had to stop him, and we had to tell the people that we are not here to tell them who to vote, but we are here to tell them to participate in the electoral process, because that is the beginning, that is where democracy starts from. And you could even hear some youths clamoring when we're saying, there should not be vote buying, and don't sell your votes, don't sell your conscience. We're doing there were some people that were actually doing the statistics. If you calculate, give 5,000, give 10,000, you'll be spending 110 naira a day and everything. With all those statistics and with everything staring us at the face, you still hear some youth saying that if they give us money, we will collect. If they give us money, we will collect. And that is because of one thing. You cannot start talking about people and say, you cannot be talking about civil rights and voting rights when you have not actually talked about the economic rights of the people, their source of livelihood. A lot of people are hungry. They're already untold hardship there. And these rights, they should work hand in hand. If the country is in a stable state, there are some persons in this country now that if you give 5,000 naira to, they would not accept it to sell their conscience, because they can actually afford good life, good standard of living. So just imagine everybody, there's a particular standard that everybody can enjoy in this country. You would see that we'll not even be preaching too much about vote buying or vote selling. But notwithstanding, we as a people should not just fold our arms because the country is already corrupt and there are already earthworms eating. But we are already going through these pains. These pains did not start today. We did not start seeing kidnappings today. The long queues did not start today. It's almost like a tradition. We don't even know when it starts. Today there may be fuel, tomorrow there is no fuel. Like today, if you walk through the streets of Abuja, yes, there are still queues, but the queues are not as much as it was yesterday. But tomorrow you may come out and you will see long queues, and you can never tell. There's a lot of uncertainty going on right now. So it's not something new. So what we are actually clamoring and telling people is that, yes, we know that there is a lot of hardship. That hardship should not deter you from coming out to vote, but rather it should encourage you, it should motivate you to want to change the system. And we cannot change the system except to participate in the election.
Interesting point of view. Okay, now quickly, as we begin to round up, across the political parties, you see all the candidates go out and talk, to the Nigerian people about what they will do when they get into power and all of that. We can see from some polls, polls recently, especially held since last year, have been actually pushing certain candidates above others. I'd just like to get your view, especially as someone who talks to the Nigerian people, on the field out there. What are your projections for these elections? What's going to make this election very unique from 2019, from 2015, from all that we've had in this first republic of democracy?
Okay, I think it's one of the things that's going to make this election unique is the acceptability. It's the literacy surrounding the need for electoral participation. If you notice, more than ever before, 75% of the new voters were all youths. So that's to show that people are now aware. There's a lot of awareness going on. There's a lot of advocacy that have gone on, and it's like the advocacy is actually working now. And one of the ways that most people find easy to actually manipulate during elections is when they see few turnout of people. People have the power. The power is in the numbers. So imagine you coming out and you see, let's even say you are one of the thugs that is hired to come and disorganize elections, and you come out and you see massive people. Where would you start from? How many people would you kill? How many bullets do you have in your gun? So you'd see that it actually helps to dissuade some of this vice of electoral malpractice and the rest. So it actually helps to dissuade it, because now we have a lot of persons coming out. So you even have persons that are ready to say, that are saying they are going to stay to the end of the elections, regardless of whether they have voted or not, to make sure that every other person has voted and the votes count. And also there are a lot of voter education going on, even with Yaga Africa. Yaga Africa have been in teaching people on how to, whenever you see that your electoral officer is done, how to actually make sure that your vote counts, how he should snap the number of persons that have voted and everything. So a lot of persons are ready to follow.
Okay, thank you. As we finally begin to round up, tell us, you mentioned earlier that of the new registered voters, like almost 10 million of them, 75% are youth, between the ages of 18 and 47, so to speak. So I'd like to get your view. How do you think the youth will fare in this election, especially where it comes to being voted for? We've talked a lot about they going out to, to exercise their franchise. But the question we need to ask is for who? So a lot of people are saying we need this generational gap shift where youth can both be elected, can both vote and be voted for. So and we have a number of youth, in these elections, especially from the presidential cadre up until, the ward levels. Tell us, where do you see youth playing out, especially with the recent upheavals and circumstances in the country?
With the recent circumstances in the country, to be very frank with you, a lot of persons that ordinarily would not want to sell their votes, seeing how scarce the naira is and seeing that somebody is there to give you the naira, may just want to give out their votes, and that is our fear. That's why I started by telling you that in the midst of this chaos, in as much as some persons are clamoring that this whole thing is against them and by bringing politics into governance, I still feel that on that day, what if?
So you are not comfortable, you are not confident that the work that your organization and several other civil society organizations, even the Independent National Electoral Commissions and other bodies have done in the country in the last 1 year, where it comes to conscientizing people, where it comes to advising them, where it comes to talking to them about doing what is right, which is actually shunning selling their votes and electing and voting for the right candidate. We don't see all of that bringing much results, especially with the current predicament we have in the country.
Definitely, we are seeing it bringing much results. Like we said, there are more youths now that have actually come out to register for elections. In fact, even persons that have been long above 18 came out this time to register because they want their voices to be heard. But notwithstanding, like I told you, rights are interdependent on each other. Right now, the economy is in a critically bad state, and whenever the economy is in a bad state, security and generally the quality of livelihood has actually dropped. So that is my fear. I'm only I'm only exposing my fears. Yes. But notwithstanding, we'll keep still singing and keep talking to people that do not let your voice just. Do not sell your vote, because your vote is your voice, especially because policemen carry guns, soldiers carry guns, but as a civilian, the only gun you have is your vote. There are many people that paid for the democracy that we enjoy today. Many people fought, lives were lost for the democracy we enjoy today. In fact, the Americans that we actually inherited democracy from, there were times that only the rich actually were allowed to vote, but this time we are voting for free. That doesn't mean that we should actually look at it as a small thing. We should look at it as a chance. Whenever we sing the labor of our heroes past, they were heroes that fought for our democracy today. We should not just let that pass by just because of a temporary menace such as this. We should just look past that and come out to vote for our conscience, vote for the person that we know would guarantee, because no matter the amount of money that is given to you today, it's going to finish. How much is 5,000? How much is 10,000? Let's even assume they give you 50,000 naira now. With the cost of life, with the cost of things around, the cost of things in the market, how much? It cannot even buy you a foreign bag of rice.
When you say 50,000, I want to place that and pray that none of the politicians is able to do that, because if they do, I think it may actually be very dangerous, because there are so many Nigerians who do not have access to 50,000, who have not had access to that in a long time. And if they are offered during elections, I don't know what to say. All right, but finally, as we wrap up, tell us, is there any solution that the government can engage, that the National Electoral Commission can engage, that the civil society can engage within the next 16 days to guarantee, to allay some of these fears that people have and bring solution to the current untold hardship in the country?
Okay, one of it is security. The security is still very appalling. I was listening to the news and I heard that a traditional ruler was actually kidnapped from Plateau, and he actually had guards. His security was overpowered. So talk more of me, talk more of you, like the ordinary Nigerian walking around that don't even have securities attached to us. What guarantee do we have that our lives and our properties are safe during this period? Because a lot of persons will be traveling to go and vote. What is the guarantee of security? Because there are still cases of kidnap everywhere. There are people being killed even in their houses. So what is the guarantee? So I'm actually calling on the government, especially the law enforcement agents, to try and make sure that the country is secure and safe for people to go out and carry out their civic responsibilities. That is one. And for the economy, because we need cash. We need cash to do virtually everything. So they should make the fuel available, at least so that the cost of transportation will be subsidized for people to travel. They should make the livelihood, the quality of life, at least raise the standard of the quality of life by making the naira available. We are not asking you to dash us money. This is the money, this is hard-earned money of Nigerians, of poor people in the streets, people that are farmers that don't even have bank accounts. Try and make this money available. What does it take to print money? Engage more persons to print if need be and make this money available. Nobody forced them to bring this policy. When you are bringing a policy, you should be responsible to make sure that the policy works. Right now, the policy is not working. You can see even they are still giving some old naira notes in some banks up until last week. And now they are not even notes. You go to the bank, they'll tell you there are no notes to give you. So how do people feed? How do people trade? The quality of life and the standard of life has really dropped. So I'm calling on the government. We need a standard. We need the economy to actually rise from what it is right now. We need security. Security is really important, because even after we vote, it's only security that will guarantee that our vote counts. Let this whole exercise not be in futility. So that will be my final words.
All right. Thank you so much, Mariam Bridget, for your time on Politics Alive today.
Thank you, Benga.
All right. That's the bit we can take. It's been an interesting conversation. One thing is clear. 16 days to the elections and a lot of doubts there. But you have a responsibility as a Nigerian citizen to look away from all the things that stand as a challenge. Participate, play your role, play your part in the 2023 general elections, either as a voter, as an agent, whatever roles you find yourself, play it effectively and contribute your quota to the development of democracy in Nigeria, in Africa and the globe. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you again next time. I'm Benga George.